Hello, and welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast, especially for introverts. I'm your host, David Hall, and the creator of quietandstrong.com. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to understanding the strengths and needs of introverts. Introversion is not something to fix, but something to be embraced. Normally, we will air each episode on Monday mornings. Be sure to subscribe. Hope you're doing well. Last time, we talked about avoiding overwhelm and finding peace, especially in challenging times. Remember, challenge your negative thoughts. Fill your mind with good memories, inspirational reading, or listening. Seek quiet throughout the day. Remember challenges you have overcome, and be grateful for the good things in life, and continue to evaluate your priorities. Hopefully you are finding that peace that you need. Today, we're going to talk about a related topic that can also cause overwhelm. Perfectionism. This past week, I was in a group of coaches and we were discussing success and challenges. As far as challenges go, perfectionism was a topic that came up. And I know this is a challenge for many. Probably many of you have thoughts of perfectionism and questions, if you're doing good enough and that kind of thing. It can really get in the way and cause a person not to take that next step. And I think about there could be many next steps. It could be starting a blog, writing a book, creating a market campaign to get more clients, making a video, taking a promotion, or that next step in your career, or so many other things. What are things that you worry about being perfect at? While I was with this group, I shared a couple quick thoughts. I definitely have been held back in life with feeling of the need to be perfect in order to do many things. And it's still a struggle for me. And I shared that I recently launched this podcast. And of course, this podcast or anything, the self-doubt creeps in. You have to think, what if it's terrible and nobody listens? What if I'm just wasting my time here? But then, someone shares that a particular thought from the show was life-changing for them. Or maybe they let you know, I'm looking forward to the next episode. And then it all seems worthwhile. And even though I'm sure it was far from perfect, it helped somebody. So let's get deeper into perfectionism and talk about some ways to overcome it. So there was a time a few years ago I was discovering I was an introvert and also my strengths and needs that go along with it. I'd done a lot of research and a lot of reading and self-reflection, and I'd come up with some great strategies that made a world of difference to me and also in the lives of other introverts. And these ideas and strategies rolled around in my head for quite some time, probably a couple of years. And I really wanted to come up with some ways of sharing these insights with other introverts. So I decided I would start blogging. So this was a few years ago. And I did a lot of planning, a lot of writing, built a new website, and much more research. But it still took me a long time to launch, as I had plenty of fears and worries. With the blog, what if nobody reads it? Is it good enough? Is it perfect? And then, of course, what will people think of me? During this time, I was doing lots of reading, like I said, and one of the books I read was Linchpin by Seth Godin. He had this concept that there came a time, and his words, where you must ship. And I'll explain that. So here's my very first blog post. It's short, so I'll go ahead and read it. Here's what I wrote. Welcome to my blog. I hope you find some great ideas here, whether you are an introvert or have someone in your life who is. My main premise is that it is important to understand how you work naturally so you can make those changes in your thoughts and behaviors to achieve the goals that you have. I tend to be a bit of a perfectionist, so I always have this feeling that there is more to do before the launch. More research, more reading, more thinking. But in the words of Seth Godin, the only purpose of starting is to finish. And while the projects we do are never really finished, they must ship. And again, that's from Lynchpin. So I have hit the publish button for the first time and have officially shipped. Hope you enjoy our journey together. So again, that was my very first blog post. And it took me a while. I had to overcome the perfectionism because there's always more you can do, there's more you can tweak. But I decided I had to ship. And this was good inspiration from Seth Godin. I do want things to be perfect. And you know what? That's a good thing. It's a good thing to strive for perfection. But I've learned I am not perfect, and I will always be a work in progress. I'm always learning, and I'm always getting better. I do believe I can approach perfection by working in my strengths, but if I wait until I have achieved it, I may never ship, as Seth Godin says, or take that next step. So, my next step after the blog was to write a book. Perfectionism can really get in the way of writing, as probably many of you know, whether it's a blog post or an article or a report of some kind, a book or a script. As you can always do more editing, you can always try to make your message better. One way to fight perfectionism is with a deadline or a time to ship. My first book was on time management and productivity, especially for introverts. So I set a time to put it out for the new year when people are traditionally setting goals for themselves. And I thought this information would be timely. Before putting it out there was much editing by me, and I enlisted the help of a few others to edit. But there came a point where it was time, and I felt I had done my best, and although it wasn't perfect, it was time to ship. So I did put it out just before New Year's. And again, not perfect, but people have let me know it's had great impact. And there's probably others that have been impacted that didn't let me know. People are struggling with feeling that there's something wrong with them as an introvert and not understanding the gifts of introversion. So, if I had waited for perfection, I might still be waiting. And these people may not have gotten the message that introversion is awesome and you can approach things like time management and productivity with your introverted nature and excel. And this book has also opened up some further opportunities for me. I've been able to connect with some great people because of it. And the next step for me was launching this podcast. Believe me, there was plenty of self-doubt. Yet, I was still encountering so many introverts that were feeling like something was wrong with them. Recently, I heard someone say on a podcast that there comes a time when you can't not speak. And that time was now for me. I want introverts to discover their strengths. And though I'm not a perfect introvert, I do have something to share. Introverts have many great gifts and strengths. And so, next step on the podcast is I'm going to be adding some guests to the show. My wife and I own a business together, and she's a photographer and an expert in branding. Again, so many people don't understand their strengths and their personalities, and we're going to partner up to help people discover their strengths when it comes to branding for themselves, for their clients. It's pretty exciting. So, more to come on that. Again, am I perfect? No, but there's many things to do. I'm so excited for these many projects I'm involved with, but I can't wait for perfection. If I wait, none of these things would be happening. So recently I was working through a training course, and there was an exercise to write your own user's manual. I thought this was an awesome concept, because guess what? I didn't come with a user's manual. Neither did you. And I have been working on my own for many years now, and I'm still a work in progress. I was thinking it would probably be nice if I had come with one, but that's not how it works. We struggle, we learn, and we grow and get better and get to know ourselves better and strive for perfection. But let's not let it get in our way. And we can learn so much from others and their own unique experiences. But often it's difficult to share our weaknesses with others, as it can make us feel really vulnerable. However, I have found that it's worthwhile to open up about myself if it helps another. A while back, I had the opportunity to facilitate a series of workshops on strengths. I knew the co facilitator of the workshop to be on the extroverted end of the scale. Of course, there's nothing wrong with this, but I knew among the participants that would take the workshop that there would be many fellow introverts taking part. I felt that there should be a different point of view represented, and that's why I volunteered to co facilitate. It was difficult for me to open up and expose my own weaknesses as we discussed strengths in the workshop. Yet, as we had the various discussions, I could tell that I was reaching some participants that perhaps my co-facilitator would not have reached. And also I'm for sure that she was reaching people that I probably wasn't. Co-presenting these workshops was a very valuable part of my own journey in exploring my introversion. As often they say, the teacher is the one that learns the most, right? During the workshops, by discussing my personal examples, I realized how fixed some of my personality traits were. I came to a better understanding that my introversion will always be with me. But I also realized that with my introversion, I have some great gifts to offer. And by understanding them, I can more closely approach perfection, but probably not yet be perfect. Since this time, I've had many more discussions about introversion and where I am strong. I've been able to help others realize the same about what makes them strong. It can be difficult to share your weakness, as you feel somewhat exposed and vulnerable. But if it can help others find their strengths and realize that we each have our own gifts, it can definitely be worthwhile. Of course, keep in mind, there may be times where you choose not to share your weaknesses, as it's not always beneficial. Just consider that sometimes it's appropriate to help others understand you or themselves, so use your best judgment. And as you are becoming more of who you want to be, remember, don't compare yourself to others. Even as I was embracing my strengths and becoming more successful, more comparisons came my way. People would say, you should act like this, or you should be more like that person. Sometimes it can be painful. And I would think, man, can't you see what all the things I'm accomplishing, all the hard work I'm doing? And you end up thinking, what's wrong with me? But you have to remember, you're you. What are your strengths? May not be perfect, but you have some amazing gifts. So this has caused much self-reflection, and after a few years I realized that I was me, and I bring my own unique strengths and gifts to the world. I've come to learn that there was nothing wrong with me, but rather what was wrong is that I did not understand my introversion. I realized that I was never going to be exactly like someone else, but I did figure out strategies to improve and be more successful by learning to understand myself. And without these struggles, I may not have come to this new level of self awareness, happiness, and success. And I truly believe there's greatness in all of us. We just need to be reminded of this, sometimes over and over again. And we need not to listen to voices that encourage people just to get by or survive, as if that's all there is to life. We are meant to be successful and thrive. So, I was thinking back a few years ago, I gave a presentation at a conference and I had to leave quickly after in order to make it to my son's basketball game. They won, and I was thinking to myself, man, they've gotten a lot better even since the last time they played. I've watched both my sons play basketball and other sports, and I've watched them continually get better with practice, experience, and effort. Sometimes when it comes to basketball, young kids really struggle with learning the fundamentals of dribbling and passing and shooting the ball. And when kids are learning these skills, they lack the confidence to shoot the ball. And as I've watched my sons learn these fundamentals, I'm always so proud when they gain the confidence to take the shot, even if they don't make it. I've also witnessed my very competitive son be frustrated when he's just starting a new sport. For example, he doesn't want to play at all sometimes. But I've watched him play soccer, baseball, basketball, football, wrestling. It's always the same. He practices, listens to his coaches, works hard, and every time gets better. Sometimes when he's having a hard time with something, we just have to remind him that when he practices, he does get better. So, before I went to this game, I gave a conference presentation. My presentation was well received, and I felt like it was a success. But getting to this point in my career had been the result of taking a number of shots, some successful, others not, some with confidence, and others feeling a lack of confidence. Over time, taking the shot, so to speak, included volunteering for various projects, taking the time to learn new things, and consistently working hard. There have been plenty of shots I haven't taken, with plenty of self doubt, and I'll never know what success they may have brought. But I can see the success gained by taking various opportunities. I see people around me afraid to take shots because they're afraid they might fail. But I've learned that failure is a part of success. Failure is a step to success, a chance to learn, move on, be better. So you may have heard this famous quote from the basketball legend Michael Jordan. I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And of course, the same is for you. You're going to have some failures, but in order to have success, you have to keep taking that shot. And sometimes you'll make it, and sometimes you won't. More often than not, you'll make the shot. So, I've put together a large work conference for many years now. Overall, I feel like the conference has been successful each year. There's always ways to get better. And so Each year we do a survey and go through the feedback. Usually we have a keynote speaker, and sometimes the speaker resonates with most of the participants, but through reading the feedback, almost every speaker, even if they're mostly popular, had critics. And some of the critics I'd read the criticism for the speaker and think, wow, I really enjoyed that message. Often there was a mix of positive and negative feedback. There was only one speaker over the years that received only positive comments, so that's pretty rare. Through watching many speakers through this event and many others, I'm reminded that it's going to be a very rare occasion that you please everyone in your work. And you could do the same thing. Look at a book review. You'll see 5 stars, you'll see 1 star, you'll see all kinds of things. Look at a YouTube video. You'll see positive and negative feedback. But in order to help people that are giving you that positive feedback, there's going to be some people that don't relate to your message, and that's okay. Your message, your project, your work, it isn't for everybody. Don't let some criticism or a lack of your perfection get in the way. Again, you got to ship. So over the years, I've overcome many things and understand much, much more about myself, especially my strengths as an introvert and how I function best. I'm enjoying creating this podcast. But of course, the self doubt and fear of failure always creeps in. What if no one listens? What if it's a flop? What if? What if? I battle these thoughts with this thought. If I don't do it, definitely no one will listen and it won't help anyone. So I decide to do it. Keep going. It may not be perfect, but keep going and share that message that I feel is important. And you need to do the same. I have many things to accomplish yet, big and small, and so do you. Do them. And if you don't take the shot, you definitely will not score. I do think you can approach perfection. But as we discussed in the last episode, it's important to prioritize. What can you focus on? You can use your gifts. What can you not do so you can focus in your areas of strength? What are things that you're doing that you could give to someone else or leave undone? Do your best work, but set a deadline for yourself, or you must ship. There are people that need your best work, and they can't wait for perfection. Also remember that failures and setbacks are lessons, and we are all a work in progress. And don't compare yourself to others. It's pretty apparent to me that most likely you will never please everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to connecting with you. Reach out at quietandstrong.com or email me at david@quietandstrong.com. I will add social media channels to the show notes. Please comment on the social media posts related to the podcast. Even if you have to think about it as an introvert, don't forget to come back and make that comment. Send me topics or questions and we can address those on the show. There are so many great things about being an introvert, so we need those to be understood. Let's keep the conversation going. Get to know your introverted strengths and needs and be strong.